Welcome to the AI Brief from the YPO Technology Network. I'm Stephen Forte. Every boom has a tell, and it is never in the press releases. On today's episode, the moment the AI scarcity story cracked in public, the SEC filing where the biggest bet in the industry reads like a confession, and the 3 changes I would make to any AI contract sitting on your desk before you sign it. Here is the lens for today. When you want to know where a market is going, ignore what the insiders say and watch what they do. This week, the people selling the AI boom, the ones with the best information about supply, demand, and what these systems can actually deliver, started hedging their own story. Not selling, hedging. The distinction matters, and it is worth real money to you. Start with the tell itself. Meta, which raised its 2026 infrastructure budget to somewhere between $125 billion and $145 billion, announced it is building a business to rent out its excess AI computing capacity to other companies. Excess. For 3 years, the entire AI economy has been priced off one story. There's not enough compute to go around, so pay up and get in line. Now the company with one of the biggest fleets on Earth is planning a rental business for its surplus. You do not open a rental business for a thing you are short of. The market understood immediately. Meta's stock jumped on the news. Micron, the memory chip maker whose product goes into all those AI data centers, fell more than 10% the same day, and the other chip suppliers fell with it. Then on Monday, SemiAnalysis, a research firm the industry treats as the scorekeeper of the chip supply chain, reported that NVIDIA's next-generation rack system, the one designed around its 2027 chips, is delayed past 2028 because one critical component cannot yet be manufactured at volume. NVIDIA insists the roadmap is intact. Maybe it is. But a market that once took every NVIDIA roadmap date as gospel spent the day repricing suppliers instead of arguing. So that is the supply side wobbling. Now the confession, Oracle, the database giant that made the single largest bet in this entire build-out, filed its latest disclosures with the SEC. And the risk factor section is remarkable reading. Risk factors are the one part of a filing where the lawyers make you tell the truth. Oracle's now discloses roughly $300 billion in obligations tied to Stargate, the giant data center venture it is building for OpenAI, against about $155 billion of backlog from everything else it does. Capital spending is headed to $70 billion next year. Total debt is up 40% to $124 billion. The stock has lost more than 40% of its value in a month. In plain English, Oracle told its shareholders, "We have bet the company on one customer's demand materializing on schedule, and here are all the ways that could go wrong." The same week, the Bank for International Settlements, the central bank for the central banks, used its annual report to compare the AI build-out to the canal and railway manias of earlier centuries. When the institution whose entire job is financial stability reaches for the word mania, it is not doing it for the clicks. And then there is the demand side from the biggest spender of all. Mark Zuckerberg stood in front of his own employees this week and said that progress on AI agents, the systems that are supposed to do work on their own, the whole justification for these budgets, quote, hasn't really accelerated in the way that we expected. This from the man spending $145 billion a year on it, months after cutting 8,000 people partly on the strength of those expectations. Give him credit for that, and I mean it. The easiest thing in the world is to stand in front of your workforce and spin. He said the timeline slipped, and give Oracle credit for the candor of its filing. Honesty of that kind is rare enough in this market that when it shows up twice in 1 week, you should treat it as data. Now, you might be hearing all this and reaching for the obvious conclusion. Bubble, pop, get out. Here is why that is the wrong read. Watch what the money actually did this week. MGX, Abu Dhabi's state-backed AI investment fund, closed a $49 billion fund, one of the largest pools of AI capital ever raised, and it came in $4 billion over target. Anthropic, the AI lab behind the Claude models, signed a 20-year lease with TeraWulf, a data center operator in Kentucky, worth roughly $19 billion for 401 megawatts of capacity. 20 years. That is the kind of paper utilities and airports sign, not software companies. And Together AI, a platform that rents out open source models, the free to download alternatives to ChatGPT and Claude, raised $800 million at an $8.3 billion valuation, led by Aramco Ventures. the venture arm of the Saudi oil company. Usage of open models on that platform tripled in the past year. The oil money is buying the picks and shovels. That tells you what the oil money thinks eventually replaces oil. Here is my read on the whole picture. This is not the money leaving the table. This is the money changing the terms. Longer horizons, locked-in capacity, state-scale backers, and cheaper open alternatives rising underneath the premium products. The insiders are restructuring their exposure. And while they do it, most companies buying AI, which is to say you, are still signing contracts priced off the old scarcity story. For the first time in 3 years, pricing power in AI is drifting from sellers to buyers. Quietly, the sellers would prefer you not notice. If you ran a company through 2021, you have lived this movie before. Shipping containers went from $2,000 to $20,000. And every operator who panicked and locked 3-year freight contracts at the top spent 2023 paying 10 times the spot rate. The scarcity was real. The mistake was signing long paper at scarcity prices right before the capacity arrived. So picture a $150 million distribution company in the kind of business plenty of you run, 3 weeks from signing a 3-year enterprise AI agreement, priced generously because last year the vendor could credibly say capacity was scarce and models were only getting more expensive. Nothing in that contract reflects a world where Meta is renting out surplus, NVIDIA's next generation is slipping, and open models are tripling. That CEO is about to lock 2021's container rates. In July of 2023, if I were sitting in your seat this quarter, I would do 3 things. First, shorten and reopen. No new multi-year AI commitment at today's rates without either a 12-month term or a price reopener clause. The sellers themselves are planning for surplus, so let their own forecast negotiate for you. Second, read your AI vendor's risk factors the way you would read a key supplier's credit file, because that is what they are now. Oracle put it in writing. Ask your vendor the same question: who funds you, how long is your runway, and what happens to my service if the music slows? Third, rerun your build versus rent math every quarter, not every renewal. The open model alternative is getting cheaper faster than your contract cycle. And even if you never switch, a credible fallback is the cheapest negotiating leverage you will ever own. 3 episodes ago, we covered the megawatts, AI arriving on your power bill. Yesterday, we covered the state, Washington wanting equity, not just rules. Today was the money, and the money just told you something the marketing never will. The people with the best information in this market are trading scarcity for flexibility. When the people selling the boom start hedging it, your job is not to call the top. Your job is to stop paying scarcity prices for what the sellers themselves are betting becomes abundant. That is the YPO Tech Network AI brief for Wednesday, July 8th. I am Stephen Forte. If this was useful, send it to a fellow member. I will be back Thursday with more. Until then, stay sharp.